Okay, good morning, everyone. It's Monday morning. This is the morning briefing from the Celtic Way. Looking back on another Celtic victory against Motherwell, we'll be chatting about that today. Potentially looking forward as well. Midweek football, guys. It's not the
Yay.
Champions League, but it's still better than no game, isn't it? So we can look ahead to Dundee, Luke McCowan's old club, visiting Celtic Park on Wednesday night. Maybe even mention another game. I don't know. Our title rivals are in action against Rangers, so we can discuss that as well. Guys, how are you both?
I saw what you did there, Hamish. Very clever, very good. Like that. Yeah, fine. All good. It's always good. You're always smiling when Celtic win. And people just making the point that it's a good week for Celtic. Here's to another good week and another two victories this time. But we would take last week's draw and victory this week, get them back on the rails a bit after, I wouldn't say stutter or anything like that, but people questioning Celtic's performances. But thought they were very good yesterday. Ball retention was good after an initial sloppy start, you might call it. But they played, I think they played very well yesterday without it showing in the kind of goals for Callum, personally. But I thought they were comfortable and they eased to that win in the end up.
I was going to put in the title when I was doing it Celtic get back to winning ways because technically that was true, but it didn't feel quite right just given how I think how good we all feel after the Atalanta result. But it was nice to get back to winning ways yesterday, Ryan, and make sure we won the game.
It certainly was, and they did what they had to do at what has been not on the record, but just in terms of games played, it's been a tough venue for Celtic in recent times. I know they've got a positive record against Motherwell. They do against most teams. That's just the way that Celtic are. But the past couple of games have had to win the game late. But it was over by the near enough the start of the second half. Once they got that second goal from Alistair Johnston, the game was over as a contest. You didn't feel as if Motherwell could get back in the game at that point, and I thought that Celtic, particularly in the second half, in the first half they were good as well, but the second half they really began to strut their stuff and play some scintillating football. I was really impressed by their second half showing against Motherwell, and they made it a bit of a procession, which is the biggest compliment I can pay them because it has been a difficult ground to play at in recent years. So delighted to see that. Delighted to see some players get their chance and taking their chance in the first team. I'm sure we're going to talk about Luke McCowan, but what he's just it's just a surge of energy. He's positive. Everything that he does on the pitch is positive. He warranted a start, and then he merited his start with a great goal and a great overall performance. I was very, very impressed with him, particularly in the first half. I thought he was the glue that stuck the defence, the midfield and attack together. I just like what he brings the team, Hamish, to be honest with you, and I hope that he stays in the team for the time being. You don't need to rush Callum McGregor back. I think I'd be more than happy to play Luke McCowan against his former team on Wednesday and really nurse McGregor back to full fitness for that big game at the weekend against Aberdeen at Hampden.
For me, Luke McCowan would start on Wednesday as well. I think actually going up against his former team, it might make a bit of sense as well because he'll know the opposition. And I know things like that, maybe as fans, we tend to over exaggerate that kind of thing, but I do think it would make sense, and he definitely deserves to keep his spot. We'll come back to McCowan, Tony, because I know you'll have things to say. Just first of all, because it is in the title, Callum McGregor, he did miss the game, but it was a bit of a precaution. Brendan Rodgers quoted as saying, and you guys would have been there, it shouldn't be too serious. I got the call late last night, and with the number of games he's played over the years, I think it was really sensible as well. It was really mature because maybe before he might not have mentioned it. He had a wee feeling after the training session yesterday, and then I got to find out, and we said, let's see how he is in the morning. Rather than take any risk with it, we didn't want to put him on to maybe stretch it and then be out for a number of weeks. So hopefully he'll be fine over these next few days. And if not Wednesday, then hopefully he should be fine for next weekend. So we'll see. I get the impression he won't play on Wednesday just from what Rodgers is saying there. I think the Aberdeen game is clearly the big game this week, and it's a huge game. But I think for Wednesday night, more than happy with McCowan in there. But no real, not too much concern over McGregor, Tony.
No, well, it is the sensible thing to do, isn't it? Because he is getting on a bit and he might be susceptible to these niggles now. So he managed that. And as I say, we've got a fine deputy. If Luke McCowan plays on Wednesday, Luke McCowan can play himself into that team on Saturday.
I agree.
Right? I don't think any Celtic
He can't play.
I can't.
I don't agree.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. But he could have. So if he wasn't cup tied, obviously. But I think every Celtic supporter is happy with McCowan and what he brings. And yesterday was just another one of those. He has merited a start, and he was great. And he got Celtic in front at a critical time in the game because they hadn't started too brightly. But once they scored, everything was fine after that. That just relaxed everybody. There was a brilliantly crafted goal. And
Did you think it was McGregor-like, the goal?
It was. He surged forward and then got the break of the ball, but no messing. Control, bang, bottom corner. No mess. It's a clinical finish. But I agreed with you because I said it last night in the pod as well. You have to play him against Dundee. He knows these players. He's got real knowledge of these players and how they function and perform and what makes them tick. So it's a complete no-brainer for me to start McCowan on Wednesday night, and also because I think he's merited it anyway. He was excellent yesterday, and no qualms about playing him at all in any fixture because I just think he's warming to the task and he's got a bit between the teeth. He doesn't want to start. He wants to start impacting games, i.e., playing from the start, and he's just reminding everybody, "I'm around, and you can rely on me. You can trust me. You can put me in there, and I'll perform." And I was delighted with what McCowan did yesterday. Excellent performance and got that all-important first goal. Because I see Celtic get started, I say shakily, but Lennon Miller hit the post and he hit the crossbar, and they had had those either of those gone in. It would be interesting to see how Celtic would have reacted to that. But once they got their noses in front, I say to Ryan, even after the first goal, felt the game was finished then. I thought Motherwell had their chance to score, didn't. And I said to Ryan, it was a question of how many Celtic would score. Because they were, after that, they started to knock it about in a very slick surface and looked good without it reflecting in the scoreline.
I thought it was a good performance yesterday. I don't think it was at the level of what we've seen earlier in the season. It was weird because actually going through the team, I mean, like McCowan, obviously we touched on him. He was excellent. Like Alistair Johnston was probably my man of the match. I thought Vai was good, but looking at other players, I didn't think Bernardo had a particularly good game in that deeper row. I thought he struggled a bit. Hatate in the first half was great. Second half, he just couldn't pass the ball to a Celtic player. The amount of times he gave the ball away. Kyogo, I didn't think was particularly brilliant. Maida, I thought was a little bit quieter than we would normally expect. And James Forrest, I wouldn't say was spectacular. So it was funny in that if you actually go through the attacking players, maybe not too many of them you would say were absolutely brilliant. But as a team, I thought we were, after that first 10 minutes, we were pretty solid. Just going back to McCowan, Ryan, I think the concern when you sign players maybe from lesser Scottish teams is the quality. Are they going to be able to handle the step up? But McCowan is a really kind of talented, technical player, and Celtic have obviously, and Rodgers and the recruitment team have obviously seen that from Dundee and thought if we put him in with better players in a team that play in a way that will suit him, he'll flourish, and that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, when the Euros were on in the summer, I remember that Sky Sports ran a story about Celtic being interested in Luke McCowan and keeping tabs on him. And I remember the comments, because I put out my own version of it. I put it out as a tweet. Not at the level, not good enough, not what Celtic need at this point in time. He's disproven all of these theories at the moment because he's thriving. He's thriving on the expectation and the pressure. I think he's actually quite enjoying the pressure and proving people wrong and showing that he is good enough. There's so many positives because obviously he's got that background. He knows what it means to support Celtic and he knows the magnitude of playing for Celtic. He also knows the geography of Scottish football as well, having a guy to come in against Motherwell and keep those levels up and bring that Scottish influence in the team that was missing, that would have been missing if Callum McGregor, well, because Callum McGregor was out of the team. If you don't play Luke McCowan, you don't have a Scottish midfielder in the middle of the park. But to his own merit, he is a good player, and he's a very good player, and everything that he does. That first goal in particular, I was talking about it yesterday on the post-match reaction. The first touch is positive because instead of going sideways or backwards or looking for another pass, he gets the ball out of his feet and looks to go forward. He gets a slice of luck, but you make your own luck with deflections like that. He follows the ball, and then it's a great finish. It is a tremendous finish. It's probably quite underrated, but it's perfectly hit. And Oxborough, who is a good goalkeeper, by the way, looks like a really good find by Motherwell, had absolutely no chance of getting anywhere near that. I just like what he brings the team. I like his attitude off the pitch. I like speaking to him in press conferences, which will be live at 10:30 tonight. It's in Bargoed. Can't wait for everybody to hear Luke McCowan speak, because I think it's a really candid interview with a guy that's on cloud nine. Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. I recommend everybody put notifications on for 10:30 for the YouTube channel when the video goes live, because he was absolutely tremendous. I think people will really, if they've not already warmed him, and I don't know how that's possible, to be honest, with the way that he's conducted himself, then watch this 6-7 minutes of him speaking to the media after the game. Tony and I each got a couple of questions to Luke McCowan, and his answers were just absolutely brilliant. Just a normal guy off the pitch that's on cloud nine. He's playing for his football team, but he's there on merit. He's not a competition winner. He's there because he's a good football player and he understands what it means to play for Celtic. For me, the fact that he's cup tied means that he's an automatic starter on Wednesday for me against Dundee. It makes sense. Former team, former captain of Dundee. Throw him in, see what he can do at home, give him that second start, just so that he doesn't lose any momentum that he's got at the moment, because he will lose that at the weekend when he doesn't play against Aberdeen, inevitably. So play him with these 2 games, and then you'll have someone to look forward to when you get back to domestic duty or league duty.
Tony?
I agree with one of the commenters there. I think there is an inherent snobbery in Scottish football about signing Scottish players. Scott Dougal, I was just about to say that, and I've mentioned it before. And I call them persons of interest, right? Now, Lennon Miller has to be a person of interest to Celtic. If they're not doing their due diligence on that right now, then what are we doing? You have to look at what's right under your nose, right?
He looks good, doesn't he?
And if they're Scottish, the better. Because as Ryan and I spoke about last night, there's all sorts of UEFA criteria that these guys can meet, when you're going for Champions League squads. And if you want to be successful, you're told to qualify for the Champions League every year. You need homegrown talent. So you have to scout the best and look at the best. So Luke McCowan, £1 million. It'll be one of the best £1 million at Celtic I've ever spent. Because he will finish his career at Celtic. He's one of these players that Rodgers refers to. Some players, this is not the be-all and end-all. It's the be-all and end-all for Luke McCowan, because that's the way he wants it. And it's come later on in his life. But he is now at his peak years, and those peak years will be spent at Celtic. And this boy's going to give you everything. But you can't legislate for the fact that, you can look at other people and say, oh, they're good. This guy is technically a very good footballer. Right? How he got here, it doesn't really matter. He's here now, and he's hell-bent on proving I'm a very good technical footballer. I've done the hard yards. This is my reward. But now, I think it's time we shed the, lifelong supporter. He's there on merit. He is now Luke McCowan, Celtic player, trying to bust his way into that team and make an impression and make an impact for all the right reasons. And he's doing that, and he's catching the manager's eye, he's catching the supporters' eyes, and yeah, he's loving life, but that's his job. He's a footballer, you know what I mean? First and foremost, he was a very good one at Dundee. He was a captain at Dundee, and he is now signed for Celtic. And there's that, that, as I say, going back to that snobbery, can they cut it at a team like Celtic? Well, you'll never know unless you sign them. But good players genuinely tend to flourish amongst the company of other good players. And he's playing amongst some elite level footballers, so he's only going to get better. And he's working under an elite level football manager. It was a no-brainer for Celtic. It's a win-win, which is why they rebuffed Hibs. Hibs had 3 offers, didn't they? And that boy was probably tipped the wink and said, Celtic want you. I want to go there.
Glad he's not at Hibs, basically. There.
And it could so easily gone that way.
Considerable distance, by quite a big difference. He would be not Celtic. He'd be Hibs' best player at the moment.
Yeah, and he will prove to be a brilliant signing for Celtic.
Quan's quite good, Ryan. Come on.
I think we can
It's
all
true.
see
That's
that.
true.
I think we can all see that the boy's shaping up to be a cracking footballer, and you can tell because you want to see more of him. You're actually annoyed that he's cup tied because he can't play any part in that football match on Saturday. It's a big game for Celtic. You'd love him to be part of that and want to see him. But he certainly starts, and he's a first team down on Wednesdays. Predicted 11, isn't he? Spoiler there. McCowan's in that midfield. Per many too from the rest.
The thing I like about him, I always love like variation in the way you can play, and he's different to any other player in that midfield. Like, and to be fair, they kind of all are different in a way. Like I would say, Engels is different to Hatate, and Bernardo. I don't know. Bernardo may be most like Engels. I don't know. I guess there's differences in the way they play as well. But McCowan is very obviously plays the game very, very differently to those two. And I can't actually remember the last player we had with that ability. I mean, when he signed, I was kind of thinking he would maybe come in and would maybe play like a similar role to Johnny Hayes. And Johnny Hayes did really well for us. I know they're different positions, by the way, just in terms of the role they played at the club. Already with Luke McCowan, for me, he's surprised me with actually how much he has contributed and how much I think he will contribute going forward. And already I'm looking at him as being someone who might have the kind of impact that someone like Ryan Christie had for us. And I know it ended not great for Ryan Christie, and he became a bit of a meme with his 1,000,000 shots over the bar and all that stuff. But I think, Ryan Christie at his peak was a really big player for Celtic, and I wonder if McCowan could have that kind of impact. Obviously, he's going to be his own person, but I actually think going forward, I think he is going to be in the discussion. Take next midweek, for example. I think Luke McCowan could be in the discussion to start that game if he has a really good game on Wednesday. Because let's face it, right now, questions over Hatate, questions over McGregor, fitness-wise, questions over Engels, if we're honest, last few games. I mean, I'm not saying Engels is a flop. Engels has still been excellent so far, but last few games he's not been at the level he was, and Bernardo wasn't great yesterday. So it might be a good time for McCowan to get opportunities. He's probably a form midfielder at the moment, isn't he?
He's right up there, yeah. I think there's similarities with Stuart Armstrong as well, because it took Stuart Armstrong a little bit of time to get in Brendan Rodgers' starting 11, but once he got there, he didn't really come out, and he was a bit of a threat outside the box, and from midfield he would score goals in Brendan Rodgers' first season. Not saying that they're the same type of player, but sometimes you need a goal scoring midfielder, a guy that can just force the issue, and Stuart Armstrong did that for Brendan Rodgers after settling in and understanding what Brendan Rodgers wanted them to do. Because you remember there was a point where Stuart Armstrong looked as if he was going to leave the club because Stefan Johansson left. It was like it could have been Stuart Armstrong. Instead, he waited, he bided his time, and he was one of the most important players in the second half of the season for Brendan Rodgers' invincible treble team. I'll repeat myself, but I like what he brings this team at the moment. He's bringing consistency in an area where there seems to be quite a bit of inconsistency. You get some good games from Paulo Bernardo, then a bit of a dip. I thought he was okay. I didn't think he was amazing. I thought he went about his business. Second half was okay. Engels came on and looked okay. But McCowan's the standout candidate at this moment in time in the midfield, and that should keep him. That should allow him to keep his place for Wednesday. He's like with Tony, he's the first name in the team sheet for me. I'm just really enjoying what he brings this team at the moment, and long may it continue. It's great to have somebody like that. Not even, yes, he'll start games, but even coming off the bench and maintaining that tempo for the last half hour, 20 minutes is going to be so important. He's going to get 45, 50 games this season. Not all of them will be starting, but he will make loads of appearances for Celtic, that's for sure. There's definitely a place for him, whether that be in the starting lineup or on the bench. He's very dependable, and Brendan Rodgers, you can already tell that he can depend on this player to come on and make a difference, or start a game and make a difference.
I was making the point, Hamish, as well, that he's already shaping up to be the player that everybody hoped David Turnbull would be when he signed from Motherwell, a Scottish club, and he came in and he made an impact in the season that shall not be named. But that was one kind of bright light, and then it all kind of tailed off and fizzled off, didn't it, for David Turnbull, through various through various reasons. But I think, Luke McCowan has got a lot in his locker. You've mentioned players here, Ryan Christie, Stuart Armstrong, David Turnbull. These are all players that had an impact at Celtic at a particular time to varying degrees of success. I genuinely think that Luke McCowan, given time, will prove to be better than all of them. It might be a bit of a statement early doors, but I just think that this boy is a talent, and he was signed for that reason. He's a talented player, and also as well, with Dundee, he was the captain. He's got leadership qualities, and he will, once he finds his feet, he'll start doing that too. But yesterday was the game where he did take it by the scruff of the neck, certainly in the first half and into the second half, but particularly in the opening period, he was very, very bright. And as I say, he got that important opening goal, and it's the cutest nutmeg prior to him scoring, isn't it? Where he sticks it through his legs and he gets that shot away. That's just quick thinking, knowing what you're about and knowing what you're doing. Again, talking about seeing things in pictures, and the player comes in and he sticks it through his legs, and the next thing he's cracking it towards goal. And as Ryan says, that's a good Motherwell keeper he's beat, and he's beat them all ends up. He's nowhere near it. So I think everybody's enthused about young McCowan, and he deserves the plaudits and the praise that he's getting for yesterday's performance. But I think you mentioned him as well. AJ for me was just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And
3 goals this season.
Yeah, you talk about a stand-in skipper leading by example, and he did yesterday. And his header's brilliant. What a cross! That's right. Alex put in the Greg Taylor-esque cross, didn't he? It was just waiting to be buried, and I don't think Alistair Johnston was the only one there. There was someone else behind him, wasn't there? To header it. I don't know who it was from memory.
Kyogo. It was a good run by Kyogo in the makeup of that goal.
Yeah, there was at least 2 or 3 players in the vicinity who were ready to plant their head on it, and that's all it needed. And Johnston will tell you himself, he's by no means prolific, but that's prolific for him, isn't it? 3 goals and all away from home, as myself and Ryan spoke about last night.
He just gets it, doesn't he, Alistair Johnston? Has a player got it that quickly? Coming from the outside, going into the club, he's got no previous connections to Celtic, but a baptism of fire against Rangers at Ibrox for his debut. He showed his stuff on that occasion, and since then he's shown that grit and determination, and now he's a goal threat in Brendan Rodgers' side. He was one of the players that I was really excited for Brendan Rodgers to work under in terms of improving a player like him, because I think he's got all the attributes to be a top right back, and now he's shown it on a more consistent basis. It's just measured aggression that he's got in this team. He's a physical presence, but he's also technically very good as well. And that link up, when Kudin came on, that link up between the two on the right hand side is a joy to watch, because they know exactly when to run, when one is going to overlap, when the other one is going to cut in, when there needs to be adequate spacing between the two players. They're just a joy to watch down that right hand side. You need to see it to believe it. It's one of these ones in person. You watch the two of them in action, and it is a joy to watch, because they're on the same wavelength completely. But I don't want to miss out on talking about Alex Bailly as well, who I thought was magnificent yesterday. Not just in the assist, it's a tremendous assist. It was one that was very Greg Taylor-esque. In fact, Taylor did the same thing against Motherwell at Fir Park for Matt O'Reilly's goal.
And he
it
did.
was almost that, it was that, absolutely. So it shows that he's learning from him, probably in the training pitch as well. It'd be a great weekend for Alex Bailly, because he would have watched his parent club absolutely decimate Real Madrid in El Clasico. But you're not a bad player if you stay at La Masia up until you're 19, 20 years old. And he's definitely got something about him. But it's not just his defensive capabilities; it's his passing on the ball. I like his range of passing that he's got in this team, and I think there's more to come. I looked at his Wikipedia page and sort of his profile. He's not 21 until April or something like that. He's a baby when it comes to a defender. He's grown up in this Celtic team, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he's like when he turns 21 compared to what he is just now, because I think he'll be twice the player for Celtic at this point. I think this is one for the future, and Celtic, I think he's just going to improve at a rapid rate from here on out.
Greg,
left back to right back, Jamie Shea. Cross left back to right back. I mean, I love that. I absolutely love that. One's acting as a winger, the other one's acting as a striker. I mean, tremendous. I mean, that's what Celtic's all about, isn't it? When they get it right, when they pour forward like that, and they're clinical, when they create a chance like that. So that's what pleased me greatly yesterday. It was a wonderful cross, and Johnston of all people with a brilliant header, which Kyogo and Adamida would have been proud of themselves.
Greg Taylor was back on the bench as well, which is positive. So we'll see if he's all right for midweek and whether he comes in, whether Vai drops out. It's going to, Brendan Rodgers has got some things to decide, I think, for Wednesday night. I think there's I'll be surprised if anyone nails the team for Wednesday night, because I think there's plenty up in the air. What are you doing at centre back? Cameron Carter-Vickers, does he come in and start? If he does, who drops out? I think it would be harsh on Liam Scales to drop out, but I'd quite like to see Carter-Vickers and Trusty start a game together. Obviously, they played together yesterday, but not for too long. Left back, who comes in? We've spoken about the midfield. Does Adamida start? Because for me, Kyogo probably wasn't great yesterday. If I'm totally honest, I don't know. Maybe that's harsh. Maybe he did things that I didn't notice, but I just thought his touch was a wee bit off. Anida comes on and scores.
This is the joy between the two, and I was talking about this in the post-match show as well. There's no problem with Kyogo here at all, because he scored in the last game against Aberdeen. You can sort of put a blanket over that Atalanta game. Nobody scored in that game. It was a game of precious little chances for Celtic. In the last league game against Aberdeen, Kyogo scored, and Adamida was getting criticised for not scoring in the second half. Now it's the complete opposite, and Adamida scored. So as long as one of them is scoring, then I've got absolutely no issue with the striking position. And it's a horses for courses, as Tony says, but it's also about form as well. Adamida started last time against Dundee at home, and he scored a towering header. So I would go with the same. I would give him a start against Dundee. He's got the yellow jersey. I'm going to use all of Tony's cliches this morning, but he does have that yellow jersey at this moment in time. And I would start him against Dundee. A physical presence against two big defenders, or two or three big defenders in Dundee's team. I would give him that and keep his confidence up, because I thought it was a great finish yesterday from Ida. A difficult finish. It wasn't an easy one, because he shot it right at the goalkeeper, and it was kind of similar to the one that he scored at Fir Park last season, but he just had to direct the pace that couldn't put on the ball, and he could just tap it in. He didn't need to put any pace on it whatsoever. Straight through the goalkeeper. Was it through the goalkeeper's legs, I believe, or in and about that area? And it was a good finish. I was having a look at the stats just before we came on. It's one of those low XG shots, because it was right at the goalkeeper and it went through his legs. But it was a low percentage shot, so he deserves credit for putting that in the back of the net. But it was a great finish from him.
I'm glad he's in contention to play. And
yeah, Jerry's asking.
Yeah, he could not have been, because that was a shocker.
Brendan Rodgers said that he didn't think that Liam Gordon went to do Adamida. Now, that's Brendan Rodgers' opinion, and he may not want to create controversy. I thought Liam Gordon did go to do Adamida.
I almost, in fact, I kind of seen it in real time, because at that point I was starting to compile all my match report and stuff like that for the paper, but it didn't look good at the time. And then I've since seen it back. Ryan sent me a clip of it last night, and it's horrendous. It's a real how Adam snapped something is beyond me, and how Stuart Kettlewell can defend that and say that he thought the referee dealt with it promptly at the time and got it right. He got it nowhere near right. Referee got nothing right yesterday, I have to say, but thankfully it wasn't to Celtic's detriment. But players have to be protected from that sort of challenge at all times. And Liam Gordon has gone through him, and he's meant it. I don't care what Andy says, because it's premeditated, and he has just gone in and cemented Adamida. And he's lucky that he's not carrying a severe injury or something snapped. So, thankfully, VAR intervened and handed out the just desserts. But, I just, those kind of tackles, I don't know what's through defenders' minds when they do that. I really don't.
He's not putting in that kind of tackle if it's 0-0 or if Motherwell have the lead. It was a real frustrated late on. Was it that incident, or was it another one where he goes for Ida, and then does he go for like Kuhn as well just after it? Or am I
There's another
misremembering?
player that was a couple of
Yeah.
seconds later. Nicholas Kuhn
That
another
looked
Motherwell player tried to
as
take him
well.
down, and Kuhn was absolutely fuming with him. He's like, "Why are you doing that? The game is over at 3-0. Why are you going out?" And it's frustration, and red mist falls and that. But that challenge from Liam Gordon is a challenge that's got to be outlawed in football. That's how players get put on the shelf for a year with tackles like that. And it would have been so. There's no point to it because the game is over as a contest. He's not even going for
He's
the
going to
ball.
miss a game now.
2, I think.
He should miss 2 or 3 because
I think he misses the Dundee United and St Johnston. I think it's an automatic 2-game ban in there.
Are they not in the League Cup semi?
No, yeah, but I don't think he misses the same. I think it's the league competition because that's where he got sent off. Somebody can correct me, but I think we were talking about that yesterday after the game, and I think that's the rules. Automatic 2-game ban for the competition that you were sent off in. So he misses Dundee United, I believe, and St Johnston after the semi-final sandwich in between the two of those.
I just think it's so. What was I trying to say? That I think it's so poor, and the point is just left my mind completely. It's just a really, really poor challenge, and there's no point. And I thought it was poor all round. That's the point I was trying to make. It was poor from the referee that he only gave a yellow at the time. I know VAR bails him out in that regard and looks at it again and orders an on-field review. He's that close to the instant he should see that it's a red card challenge. He's nowhere near the ball. I think that's the sort of challenge. When you're that late, it should be a red card. I think in the coming years that will become the case. Football is going that way. And there's no attempt to go for the ball there whatsoever. Or if there is, then it's a completely delayed attempt, in which case, you'd be questioning a professional as why he was so late in going for that ball. So it makes you think that it was a tackle with intent for that. And then the manager saying that it was harsh. The only harshness was not the only thing surprising about that incident was the fact that it wasn't given a red card initially, and the fact that it actually was given as a yellow. Then it became a red. It was the tackle gets worse every time you watch it, and you can talk about the fact that you slow it down and everything looks bad. It doesn't look great when it's in full time, when it's in real time either. So I'm glad that the right decision was made on at least one of the contentious issues. We could go on and talk about Daizen Maeda's goal, or the chance that Maeda had that should have been a penalty and a red card. But at least that one was made right at the end, albeit it didn't impact the game or proceedings.
Hamish, you mentioned it. It's in 90 plus 3 minutes.
Yeah.
The game's almost done. You're in injury time. Quite literally. So what's going through your mind there? Why are you getting in for a tackle like that? The game's done. You're getting nothing from it. And you end up with a needless red card for something pretty cynical. I don't know. The logic escapes me on that one. Liam Gordon would need to tell you what's going through his mind on that.
I must say,
carry on. Adam Reid is lucky just to have escaped serious injury.
Took it like a trooper, by the way. He tried to keep it on going.
He might be lucky, but he also might not be. I mean, I don't know if we've heard the end of this. Do you remember Lewis Palma? I think it was in Flag Day, got a similar tackle. Now, I don't think it was as bad a tackle, but I remember he got a really bad one in his ankle, and it kind of passed, and I think he finished the game. It was pretty late on as well, and then he missed. I think he missed 2 or 3 weeks after that because of it. So I don't know. I feel Roger says that he might have a wee bit of swelling, but it might be the kind of one that Adam Reid is waking up today, and it's a lot worse. I really hope that's not the case, but I would just urge a bit of caution over thinking that he's completely got off scot-free here, because I'd be intrigued to hear later on. I wouldn't be massively surprised if we hear maybe that Ida doesn't play on Wednesday, but shocking challenge.
Yeah,
it was a dreadful challenge, and thankfully the player did get sent off because it was the right decision. And I like that Nicholas Kuhn stood up for his teammate and for himself with that the challenge that followed a couple of seconds later. I like to see that from the team. I think in years gone by, Celtic have been a little bit too soft with just dealing with challenges that come their way. But I think in recent times, they're standing up for themselves a bit more and really putting themselves about, which is, I like to see that. I like to see the camaraderie between the players and also the togetherness with the team as well. You see that at full time. It seems like a really tight-knit group that Callum McGregor's assembled. Seems to be a really good bond between the players and the supporters, the players with each other. And that's great to see. It's important because, you know, they're in the trenches together for a full season. They need to be with each other.
Just a few comments. So we've got Martin saying, glad he switched to midfield at the weekend. McCowan starting to look like a gem of an asset. McLaughlin P, just keeping Calmac fresh for the semi-final and Leipzig game's good idea. I think Hazel reckons Vai's coming on a treat, loves his passion. And Scott saying 1 million for McCowan, a bargain in today's market. Going to be an interesting midweek, guys. It's, as I say, it's not Champions League, but I think it's going to be a really good Wednesday night. We're obviously playing Dundee, which is the main focus, and it's certainly a match we will expect to win, but it's another opportunity for the team to perform. But at the same time, or slightly afterwards, I think 15 minutes later, we're going to have Aberdeen facing Rangers. And the thing I was thinking earlier, it's pretty obvious what I want to happen in that game. But any result really in that game's kind of good for us. Even a Rangers win means that we'll have a chance to open a gap up at the top. So kind of any result there's all right for us, as much as I would still like Aberdeen to win.
I've been thinking about it and deliberating in my mind. I think for me, the perfect result in that game would be a draw between Aberdeen and Rangers.
Oh, come on. Perfect result is that mob getting beaten again.
I mean, I think Aberdeen are the challengers right now. I don't know how much of a title challenge Rangers can muster up. I think by the time that Celtic and Rangers play, there'll be quite a sizable difference in the points totals. That's just me being honest with the way that both teams are playing at this moment in time. For me, I don't want Aberdeen coming into the semi-final with loads of confidence either. I think that's going to be a hell of a game at Hampden. Really looking forward to that on Saturday. I think a draw would be a great result for all parties, or the Celtic party, because both teams drop points and Celtic open up a bit of a cushion between the two sides. That's just my opinion. I know people will have different opinions, but yeah, I think both teams dropping points would be ideal.
I'm with Hamish on this. You want Rangers to lose because you feel that Rangers will come good at some point during the season and Aberdeen will tail off. But if Celtic and Rangers both open up a 9-point gap over Rangers, you are quite confident that Celtic will take care of business against Dundee. Then I think that's the result you really want. This kind of draw, and I mean, I'm not, because you always see Rangers as your main rivals for the title. Doesn't matter on any given season. Aberdeen are there at the minute and they're there on merit. But I think if both clubs open up a 9-point gap over Rangers, then that's pretty significant to me. And I think that's what you would want, because I think you're still confident of, you know, that there's been a kind of rewriting the history of this 2 each game, and Aberdeen are the media darlings and the darlings of Scottish football at the minute, and I get that. Celtic could have hammered them. When they went 2-0 up, there was quite a distance between the two clubs. Aberdeen got themselves back into the game because Celtic had a 15-20 minute spell where they were right off it, and that's what can happen. But then Celtic threw the kitchen sink at them, and it could have been 3-2, 4-2, 5-2, 6-2, as we've spoken about. So I think when push comes to shove, and you might see it on Saturday, it'll be a cracking game. But I just think Celtic will have it when it matters. So if you can take you can take your main rival and challenger out the equation as early as this and go 9 points ahead, I think you would want to do that, and you'd be fairly confident that you could open up a gap over Aberdeen. That's my own thoughts on it. People can feel free to differ and say they want a draw and stuff like that, but I think Celtic will come good and will gallop away eventually from Aberdeen. So that's why I would want Aberdeen to beat Rangers and inflict that significant wound of moving 9 points clear this early. because I think that's irretrievable in my eyes.
Somebody put up a point, and I'm going to bring it up. Would rather be 8 points ahead of Rangers and 2 ahead of Aberdeen than 9 points ahead of Rangers. I'll take that. That, for me, and people can call me delusional or whatever, I just don't see Rangers as title contenders this season. I've watched them numerous times this season. I know it's a Celtic podcast, but I don't think they're at the level or anywhere near the level that Celtic are at this moment in time. Things can change. I know that the league can change quickly, but Celtic's biggest contenders this season are themselves, their biggest opponents. If they stay consistent and play the way that we know that they can play, then they'll win the league. They'll win the league comfortably by a comfortable margin. But their biggest enemy is themselves, and we've seen that before. That was the reason why Aberdeen came back into the game last week. It wasn't because Aberdeen were amazing. It's because Celtic were so clumsy in the second half and allowed themselves to take the foot off the gas. For me, the biggest result on Wednesday is Celtic winning. As long as Celtic keep on winning, then the title will be staying where it is. And that's just got to be the aim. Just keep on winning. Whatever happens in Aberdeen will happen. But the most important thing is Celtic get the 3 points. And, maybe a similar result to the one the last time Celtic played Dundee at home. That'd be quite good. I know it probably won't happen, but if Celtic can really get the goal difference up as well, then I think they'll be in a great place. Not that the goal difference matters that much because they're so far ahead of Aberdeen in that regard too, but I just want to see them really kicking on ahead of a big game in the semi-final in the League Cup on Saturday. I think it's a big game.
Yeah. Looking forward to it. Thanks, guys. We will do this again tomorrow. Still get a bit of chat probably from the weekend, and we can look ahead more to the Dundee game, maybe get into some of those team selection dilemmas. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of news. We can chat about the Luke McCowan stuff as well. It's out later today. So, yep, thanks, guys. Once again, thanks everyone for tuning in. A reminder that you can back the channel, become a member for just $2.99 per month. You get perks like early video access, priority comments, and exclusive members chat functions. So plenty of cool stuff. Also, please consider subscribing to the channel as well. That costs you nothing and means everything to us. Okay, we'll return tomorrow, everyone. Speak to you then.